Ben arrivati.
Welcome and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. Thank you. I think this applause is a sign of saying thank you for everybody for being here. And I believe on behalf of each and every of us, we want to say thank you because once again, our meeting is about to start. I would like to express my words of welcome to His Excellency Ruragani, who will be speaking tomorrow. Cardinal Tauran, Rabbi Korsia, and Professor Gaci, who is the Rector of the Mosque, Rabbi, who will be present in the conference that will be starting soon, and are protagonists of this great opening session for our meeting. I would like to welcome all the authorities here. I would like to thank them for their presence and for their support in being here at the beginning of our meeting. I think it's also fair to start thanking. We want to say thank you because the meeting is a sign of gratitude. That's the way it started. It started because of the gratitude and the human experience that we have met, and every year it takes place because of this. So I would like to express my warmest gratitude to everybody, the speakers, the artists, the curators of shows, the volunteers, the partners, the friends, who in one way or another contributed and are contributing to the creation of the meeting. In this moment, there's a particular form of gratitude that I want to express to Pope Francis and President Mattarella. As they allow us to open this meeting with the high level and profound contribution of their words, and allow me to say this, and you'll be able to listen to this. They sent contributions that are really full of participation towards us and towards what we are going to start today. I'm going to read the message that through the Secretary of State, Pietro Parolin, Pope Francis sent to the Bishop of Rimini. Your Excellency, on behalf of the Holy Father Pope Francis, I wish to express my warmest greetings to you, the organizers and the participants to the 36th Meeting for Friendship Amongst Peoples. The evocative and poetic phrase selected as the main theme for this year's meeting, "What is this lack? A lack of, oh heart, which all of a sudden you're full?" particularly emphasizes the heart inside each of us, and that which St. Augustine described as restless heart, which is never satisfied and keeps looking for something that is up to its expectations. This quest is expressed through questions on the meaning of life and death, love, labor, justice and happiness. However, to be worthy of finding an answer, it is necessary to seriously consider one's own humanity, always cultivating this healthy restlessness. In this effort, as Pope Francis says, we may need to think of some ordinary human experience, such as a joyful reunion, a moment of disappointment, a fear of being alone, compassion at the sufferings of others, uncertainty about the future, concern for a loved one. Hence, one of today's big issues is raised. Before so many partial answers, which only offer false infinite, and produces a strange anesthesia, how can everybody's inner questions be voiced? Before the numbness of life, how can one's conscience be awakened again? For the Church, a fascinating journey opens up, as was the case at the beginning of Christianity, when the people were busy in a life without courage, power, or seriousness to ask decisive questions. And, as experienced by St. Paul at the Areopagus, speaking of God to those who diminished, censored, or forgot his why, appears as something strange that seems to be far from real life with its tragedies and trials. Therefore, none of us may start any discourse on God unless we are able to feel the tiny and smoky light burning in our heart, without accusing anybody for their limits, which are also ours, and without pretensions, but welcoming and listening to anybody. The duty of Christians, as Pope Francis loves to remark, is starting processes rather than occupying spaces. And the first step lies in reawakening the sense of that lack our heart is full of, and that very often lies under the burden of frustrated efforts and hopes, yet our heart is there and is always in quest of something. Today's strategy consists of the impending danger of negation of person's identity and dignity. A warring ideological colonization diminishes the perception of the authentic needs of the heart, while offering limited responses which do not consider the scope of the quest for love, truth, beauty and justice that is in each individual. We are all children of our time, and we are influenced by a way of thinking offering new values and opportunities, which can nevertheless condition, limit and damage our heart with alienating proposals that quench the thirst for God. But our heart is never content, as Pope Benedict XVI said when talking to the youths in San Marino. It is a window open on the infinite. Why do we have to suffer and eventually to die? Why do evil and contradiction exist? Is it worth living? Is it possible to hope before a third world war engaged in a piecemeal fashion, and with so many brothers being persecuted and killed due to their creed? Is loving, working, making efforts, committing oneself still meaningful? What is the destination of our life and of the people we would never want to lose? What are we doing in this world? These are questions that are in everybody's mind, young and adult people, believers and non-believers alike. Sooner or later, at least once in our life, due to a challenge or a sorrowful event, thinking about our children's future or about the usefulness of our job, each of us needs to come to terms with one or more of these questions. Even the most stubborn deniers cannot eradicate them from their own existence. Life is not an absurd desire. The lack is not evidence that we were born flawed. Rather, it is a sign that our nature is made for great things. As God's servant Monsignor Giussani wrote, human needs constitute a reference, an implicit affirmation of an ultimate answer which lies beyond the experiential aspects of existence. If the hypothesis of a beyond were to be eliminated, those needs would be unnaturally suffocated. The myth of Ulysses tells us about our nostos algos, that is, the nostalgia that can only be fulfilled in an infinite reality. For this reason, God, the infinite mystery, bowed to our nothingness, thirsty of Him, and offered the answer that everybody was awaiting, when, even without being aware of it, while they seek it in their own success, money, power, any kind of drug, in asserting their own momentary desires, well, only the initiative of God the Creator could fill in the scope of the heart. And He came to us to let us find Him just like we find a friend. Thus we can rest even in stormy waters, as we can be sure of His presence. Pope Francis said, even if the life of a person has been a disaster, even if it is destroyed by vices, drugs or anything else, God is in this person's life. Although the life of a person is a land full of thorns and weeds, there is always a space in which the good seed can grow. You have to trust God. With this year's theme, the meeting can contribute to an essential task of the Church. That is, to stimulate a desire for this growth, so that each of us can say wholeheartedly, it is no longer I who live, but Christ who lives in me. In that Jesus' message is the message capable of responding to the desire of the infinite which abides in every human heart. Jesus came to show the love which God has for us. It is a love which is powerful and real. It is a love which heals, forgives, raises up and shows concern. It is a love which draws near and restores dignity. We can lose this dignity in so many ways, but Jesus is stubborn. He gave His very life in order to restore the identity we had lost. Therefore, the Holy Father, here is the contribution that our faith can offer, that the meeting can testify with the people that makes it. Therefore, the Holy Father wishes the organizers and volunteers of the meeting to welcome everybody, supported by the desire to spread with strength, beauty and simplicity the good news of God's love. Once again, today the Lord bows to our lack in order to fill it with the water of life gushing from the risen Christ. His Holiness asks everybody to pray for his ministry and gives wholeheartedly his apostolic blessing to Your Excellency and to all the meeting participants. May I also wish you all the best for the meeting and send you my fondest regards, Pietro Cardinal Parolin, Secretary of State. Now I proceed to read the message by President of the Republic, Sergio Mattarella. I would like to extend my warmest greetings to the organizers, volunteers, and all the participants to the meeting for friendship amongst people, and wish you every success for this 36th edition. The person is the foundation of the community and of the state. Their liberty, the absolute value of their being unique and unrepeatable, the completeness of human rights come before any code and system as indicated by Article 2 in our Constitution. The meeting stems from this notion. Over time, hundreds of gatherings and debates have been organized, enriching dialogue and developing relations and friendships. This experience has been educational for many young people. Your association, CL, has grown and reached full maturity. Our society and our culture's pluralism have benefited from this. This year's title of the meeting was inspired by an intense poem by Mario Luzzi, "What is this lack of, O heart, of which all of a sudden you're full?" digs even deeper into the human soul in search of the source of our constant need for truth, which drives our spiritual and social energies. We live in a world of real-time communication, of extraordinary technological potential, of multiple and apparently endless connections. These opportunities should be at the service of the project of humanism as a whole, a prerequisite of civil development, preventing technology from dominating us. Whenever we feel super powerful, we discover, in fact, that it is just an illusion. If we lose sight of our humanity, fraternity, the desire for what is good and beautiful, the value of legality, the perception of limits that are impassable, including for public authorities, the aspiration to a condition of peace, greater justice and equality. The personalist's ideal is a great aspiration of the modern individual, whose fulfillment lies in social formations of different kinds. It is a commitment for the entire people. Everybody is called upon to contribute within pluralism of beliefs and cultures. We shall all take advantage of this, starting from institutions and politics. There is always a risk of sectarian reactions or fundamentalist temptations, as testified by the resurgence of populism and nationalism around us. Well, the answer is provided by many examples of morality, solidarity, corporate responsibility, conflict management, and the recovery of the rule of law where its structure has been damaged. The values of personalism and solidarity are at the basis of our Constitution and need to be continuously fulfilled. Those who do this with generosity contribute to strengthening the antibodies to face the difficulties emerging in every season. Our society has gone through a long economic crisis which has left deep marks, and it needs more than ever values and processes inspired by sincere ideals. It also needs credible witnesses who behave according to consistency and morality, eliminating opportunism, which unfortunately often leads to corruption, a germ undermining civil society. The 36th meeting starts with an important session on religions. World peace shall depend on the capability of monotheistic religions to dialogue, mutually understand each other and collaborate. We must be aware of this. Terrorism, fueled by fanatic distortions of faith in God, is trying to introduce in the Mediterranean, in the Middle East and in Africa, the germs of a third world war. It is our responsibility to stop this. It is our duty to eradicate hatred, foster confidence and cooperation, and show the benefits of peace. Europe has a major duty, because the dialogue between monotheistic religions can already develop within our own societies, which are now pluralist and multi-ethnic. The humanity we show in receiving desperate refugees, the intelligence with which we face migratory phenomena, and the firmness with which we fight human traffickers will be the way we show the world the quality of democratic life. Democracy can be exported by means of culture and good examples. With this spirit I shall follow your proceedings, and I wish you once again every success. Sergio Mattarella, Italian President of the Republic of Italy. I would like now to invite to join me here on the stage the three important personalities that we have here, whose messages have been anticipated, and who are the protagonists of the first session of our meeting in 2015. Cardinal Jean-Louis Tauran, Chief Rabbi of France, Korsia, and Professor Azzedine Gaci, Imam of the Villeurbanne Mosque in Lyon.
Le religioni sono parte della soluzione.
Religions are part of the solution and not the problem, as it was anticipated to us. Well, now, at the beginning of this year, we were starting to make an in-depth analysis on the title of the meeting, and on that very occasion, during those weeks, the tragic attack to the headquarters of the Charlie Hebdo had just occurred, and then the attack to the kosher supermarket of Port-Avensin, in which some Jewish citizens were killed. So we were at the beginning of this reflection on the heart of man, on the lack, on the structural lack, on that lack which pushes everybody to acknowledge and to realize that there is something beyond, that there is a call, as the continuation of the poem by Mario Luzzi says. So it was evident to us that this kind of recognition of this lack is very important, the profound value of this nostalgia for something else, the thickness of a human position of this kind. But at the same time, as you may remember, we found ourselves in a debate which followed those tragic events. During this debate, explicitly or not so explicitly, somebody decided to put the blame on religions for what was happening, and somebody invoked a sort of lay attitude, a lay attitude towards the vacuum with no religions whatsoever, because the blame was put on the religions as a source of intolerance. It was in that very moment that from some religious people from various religions, it was possible to state once again that certainly religions, in that they are a bulwark against nihilism, against the nothingness, since religions repropose to man his own dignity. Religions represent within the modern lay societies a well and a good for everybody. They are not a heritage to be safeguarded for somebody. They are something good for everybody. Man, recognizing his need for the infinite, can live and move in the society freely. This is why this man is able and willing to meet the others, because it needs the diversity of other people, and vice versa. Thinking that we are autonomous and believing in the dogma that we are unique and better than the others. So being sure that we can be autonomous and better than the others can lead to violence. From the awareness of the intrinsic value of religions and also of the social and civic value of religions, we saw a profound link between the topic of the lack and the desire and nostalgia and the value of religions. Hence the title, are religions part of the solution? Religions are part of the solution, they are not the problem. Religions are part of the solution in that, well, I need to say that there are some connotations which should be underlined. In that, stating the value of a religion means at the same time stating the freedom of worship, the right of every man within any society to cover his or her own pathway towards a quest for truth. Religion is one stage of a pathway, personal pathway in search of truth, a personal pathway according to times and ways that are known only to this time. And we, as Christians, when we invoke the topic, the issue of freedom as an inseparable factor from the quest for truth, we as Christians have learned from our long-standing history. Of course, we all experienced temptations. We learned that there is no access to truth which does not pass through freedom, through liberty. In this sense, religions can live in every lay society because religions make reference to the personal relation with the infinite, the relation which every man and woman has with the infinite. They can never be linked only to one power. The relation with the infinite is intrinsic of the person. There is no religion without freedom, and there is no religion which is not the gesture, the action of a person, and not the gesture of the collectivity, whatever it may be. So revolving around this topic, we invited three authoritative representatives of the three major monotheistic religions. We have Rabbi Haïm Korsia, the chief rabbi of France. He studied in the Jewish Seminar of France. He's been Secretary General of the Association of French Rabbis, the Vice President of the Group of Study on Sects of the Institute of Higher Studies of the Minister of Internal Affairs. He graduated in the Sorbonne University. He was appointed in 2014 Chief Rabbi, and is also a member of the French Academy. I would like to quote one sentence, one of his sentences soon after the attack to the supermarket in Paris, I think. Am I right? A correction. He's a member of the Academy of France. He's a member of the Academy of Moral Science, Moral and Political Science of France. So this is the right definition. Okay. Rabbi Korsia stated soon after the attack to the supermarket, there's a beautiful verse stating that God renews the creation of the world every day. So I'm looking at him. I don't want to make a mistake. Today, this is not the following of the previous day. This is forgiveness, not being prisoners of the mistakes of the previous day, being able to invent a new world, reinventing our relations, our human relations and social relations. This is what France needs today. So with this sentence, with this declaration, I now leave the floor to Rabbi Korsia. The second guest we have with us is Professor Azzedine Gaci. He comes from Algeria. He's a rector of the Mosque of Villeurbanne, the secretary. Hopefully, I don't make mistakes. He's been Secretary General of the Regional Council for Muslim Worship in the Rhône region. He was also the president of that council. He's been strongly committed in religious dialogue, and we may recall a recent episode in 2007. He organized a journey to Algeria, which also included a pilgrimage to the tomb of Trappist monks killed in 1996. And Professor Gaci invited to this pilgrimage Cardinal Barbarin. Cardinal Barbarin said that when he was asked to join the pilgrimage, he said, "Okay, let's leave tomorrow morning." So on this pilgrimage on the tomb of the monks that had been killed became a gesture of friendship between Muslims and Christians. Imam Gaci in 2011 organized the first forum for Christians and Muslims. This became a world-level event in 2015. In the very days of the tragic events in Paris, a delegation of French imams committed in this interreligious dialogue was making a visit was paying a visit to the Vatican. She was part of this delegation as the rector of the Mosque of Bordeaux, Tarek also visited the Vatican during those days. And I would also like to introduce Miss Rashi with a sentence he pronounced after the Paris events. Those who love God will never tolerate resentment, hatred against men. And this is our second guest for this afternoon. Our third guest, I will not offend the other two guests, but he's a great friend of the meeting of Rimini and a master for us all, a great master of the meeting. So we learned a lot from Cardinal Tauran. I'm continuing to learn a lot from him, and I'm learning what it means. Searching from the truth of one's own identity and being able to be open towards everybody. Cardinal Tauran is the president of the Pontifical Council for Interreligious Dialogue, and he also had other experiences in the Vatican diplomacy, and he was a nuncio in Lebanon, in the Dominican Republic. He had lots of experiences in international conferences of any kind. In 2007, Pope Benedict XVI appointed him the president of the Pontifical Council for Interreligious Dialogue. I am not going to make a quotation by Cardinal Tauran, because this sentence, which is the title of today's meeting, of today's session, is a sentence by Cardinal Tauran. Before leaving the floor to our guests, and I apologize for having you waiting, but you're sharing the beginning of the meeting with us. Before leaving the floor to them, I would like to introduce another key player of this meeting. The Secretary General of the UN, Ban Ki-moon, sent us a video message on the occasion of the inauguration of the opening ceremony of this edition of the meeting.
Greetings to all of you taking part in the 36th meeting for friendship amongst the peoples. Congratulations on such a spirited gathering with the thousands of people of different faiths, cultures, and traditions uniting for friendship and peace. Our world today is marred by conflict, inequality, and growing divides. But everywhere I travel, I also see people fostering understanding, reconciliation, and hope. That's what brings you to Rimini. That is what will bring world leaders, including His Holiness Pope Francis, to New York next month. In September, we will adopt a new Sustainable Development Agenda to transform our world by the year 2030. Working together, we can do it. I believe in the power of people, ideas, and the human heart. I thank you for coming together to imagine a better world and to build it. Thank you.
Do ora la parola al rabbino Haïm Korsia.
So I now leave the floor to Rabbi Haïm Korsia. Thank you.
Merci de...
Thank you very much. Thank you for sharing with me this reflection on the others. This makes us reflect on a very important issue, namely, why is there a need to speak and to dialogue with the other religions? I believe that the basic logic is that we consider Hebrewism, the Jewish religion, which is not the holder of truth, but everybody has his or her own truth. And the fact of not having the truth in your hands forces us to be nourished with the truths of other people and to pull the truth of everybody. Humanity gathers all the genes of all the cultures, the genius of us all. And we see this in the Bible as well. Quite surprisingly, in the Exodus, when the Hebrews fled from Egypt and Jethro the father-in-law of Moses, told Moses, "You cannot go on like that." When the people gets out of Egypt, it rejected everything which reminded it of slavery and Egypt. And therefore Moses manages the people, speaking to them all. And Jethro, his father-in-law, told him that he had to be the chief of everybody, of 10 people, 100 people, 1,000 people. Each of them would judge the others from their own point of view, and you, on your part, will judge on the important things. However, being the chief, being the head of 10, 100, 1,000, 10,000 people means building a pyramid. And the pyramid is Egypt. And so Jethro tells Moses in the same text when Moses receives the 10 commandments. Look towards the truth of Egypt and look towards the truth of that pyramid. This is an extraordinary lesson. In Egypt, too, there is a lesson we can learn. Several times in the Bible, it is possible to read, thou shalt love Egypt because you were hosted by Egypt. Certainly as a slave, but you were hosted by Egypt all the same. And this capability to have another truth, a different truth than the evident truth we normally come to terms with, can also be found in a treaty of the Talmud, the treaty of the Sanhedrin, which tells us an incredible story. In a very small town, Shiloh, before the temple became a temple of Jerusalem, there was a tabernacle. At a distance of 3 kilometers from there, there was a temple of idolaters, and the smokes of both temples converged together in the sky. So Talmud tells us that the angels asked God, do you want us to destroy this idolatrous temple, which prevents smoke from getting higher in the sky? And God answered to them, no. God often says to extremists, calm down, but this is unfortunately something the extremists do not listen to. God told the angels to calm down because the idolatrous worship of that idol consists in bringing food to this idol. And the food can be eaten by the poor people and by passers-by. Certainly, idolatrous attitude can be condemned. It is not a truth. But since, in the end, it gives some benefits to those who are in need, God simply decided to let these people continue with their behavior. We may find the same principle of welcoming the others with a passage commented on Timnah in the same Talmud treaty. Timnah is an unknown woman who in the Bible, in the Genesis, wanted to enter into the family of Abraham. She is rejected by Abraham, and she's also rejected by Isaac, by Jacob, and she decides to become the concubine of Eliphaz, Esau's son. So we have Abraham, Isaac, Jacob. Jacob has a brother, Esau, whose son is called Eliphaz. And the son will be called Amalek. And that's the pyramid of the Jewish people. And the comment of the Talmud says that that child who is born from the hatred of the people of Israel, this child was born simply because his mother was not properly welcomed. So the idea of welcoming, of receiving the others and the truth they have lies at the basis of humanity. It is an incredible paradox, which may be found with a stork. I was debating with the excellent translator, the wonderful translator of the press conference. So I was discussing with this wonderful translator before the press conference. She explained to me that in Italy, you have the same tradition of the stork as we have in France. You also believe, and you also say that storks bring the children. Why do the storks bring the children? Because stork in Hebrew is called Hasidah. Hasidah means the religious one, the devout one, because it is a bird having an endless love for its breed. This is why in France and in Italy we believe that the stork brings the babies. The paradox is that this bird, this animal, is not a kosher bird, so it is forbidden for us to eat stork meat. Why? Why can an animal considered devout not be eaten by the Jewish? It is not kosher because the stork shows its good attitude only by means of its breed and not through the others. So its good behavior is not addressed towards itself. So a good attitude, if you do not open up to the sufferings of the others, you cannot be a good person. Luca, my young friend who's accompanying me, when I arrived in Bologna, I said to myself, okay, I'm in Italy now. Therefore, I decided to set my mobile phone with an Italian song, and I had one song by Zucchero. Luca explained to me that the way in which Zucchero writes his songs. He drinks a lot first, then he drinks a little bit more, then he ends everything, which is still available when it comes to drinks, and then he writes songs. This made me think about Noah. Noah, too, has the responsibility of rebuilding humanity after the flooding. And he drank. Noah drinks a lot because he doesn't want to take on his responsibilities. And as Zucchero does, Noah also manages to rebuild humanity. And so the qualities of the three kids were put together. Maybe the truth was not in the hands of one of those three kids. They were all put together. And actually, in order to rebuild the world today, and the chairperson was right in reminding us of the dream we need to share, rebuilding every day a new world. To do this, we need to be able to dream about this new world all together. The great difference between the deluge, the floodings, and the Tower of Babel, in case of the deluge, men killed each other. And God decided to eradicate that mankind, that humanity. In the Babel Tower, God was content enough to simply disperse them and to mix the languages. Well, the languages were not so mixed, because I managed to understand that you said I was a president of the Académie Française, but it's not the case. It's not true. In any case, a question. Why was God stricter with the deluge than with the Tower of Babel? There are two aspects. First of all, we may say that God prefers men to be united against him rather than not being united on behalf of God. During the deluge, each man wanted to kill the others. Whereas in the Tower of Babel, all men were united against God. They were united. It's a little bit like Don Camillo and Peppone. They were together. They were friends and enemies at the same time. And then there's a great idea, namely, that the deluge was the hatred of man against the other man. But the Tower of Babel was the willingness to be all the same. Uniformity is dangerous for man. We need to focus on unity. Unity is important. This should be our objective. Unity leads to differences. There's a great deal of difference because unity means dialogue, and a dialogue which makes progresses. If we remain the same, if we're all the same, we cannot bring each other new things. We cannot have any exchange. Nobody will evolve. And nobody will make progress. In France, this possibility exists, this possibility to dialogue and to contribute the ones with the others, to have an exchange according to the concept you mentioned earlier, a lay kind of attitude. Laity in France is neutrality of the state. Each person can have his or her own truth, liberty, or lack of religion. And each person respects the other persons. To conclude, I would like to go back to the sentence, which is the title of this year's meeting. It is a wonderful sentence which defines the dream of the interreligious dialogue, because it defines the perfection of man. The perfection of man is its perfectibility. A man evolving, moving towards perfection. It is the need for the others. The need for the other, and it is my part, my ego, which is held by the others. This is a part I miss. And on my part, I have a part of every one of you. We simply have to be able to welcome this part and to receive this part of the others. In order to be able to welcome and to receive this part, we need to give love. And love is at the heart of the dialogue. Without drowning in others, without syncretisms, we need to know who we are, but at the same time, we should accept meeting the others and going towards the other, approaching the others to discover ourselves. Thank you very much.
Bravissimo. Molto efficace.
C'est très dur avec la traduction comme ça.
Lo so. Grazie, Rabbi Korsia. La parola.
Thank you very much, Rabbi Korsia. We now leave the floor to Professor Gaci.
Thank you, Madam President, Your Excellency, Chief Rabbi, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters. First of all, I would like to express my deepest sense of honor and happiness for being here today at this meeting, as my presence enables me to show how it is possible to live together with the others and not against the others. My presence also enables me to give you another view on the concept of living together, because we live in a period which is marked by diversity, divisions, and a very profound complexity. Each big religion, such as Christianity, Islam, and Judaism, left the spaces where they originated and disseminated everywhere in the world. We see there's a globalization of religions now. Of course, mobility of people and networks, social networks and information flows all contribute to this globalization. But this globalization also has positive effects on religions themselves, because they allow these religions to start questioning things and trying to adjust to the other religions themselves. In my view, there are today three fundamental issues that should be addressed when considering the three monotheistic religions. The first one is, how can Islam, Judaism and Christianity continue to live together in the future within the same Europe, but even within the same country, be it Italy, France, Germany or Great Britain? The second issue is, will these three religions be able to contribute to peace, to social cohesion, or will they fuel problems due to intolerance, extremism and terrorism? And the third question, which we often have in our souls, is this: are we going towards a clash of civilizations today, or are we actually going towards a dialogue between cultures, religions and civilizations? Well, these three issues all lead to the big question that is at the center of today's meeting. Are religions more of a solution or of a problem when considering the theme of living together? Well, this is a fundamental question. I'll try to reformulate it and to explain the conditions that, when they are all present, enable religions to live together and not to live one against the other. So what are these prerequisites at the basis of sharing in life? I think there's different needs. There's a personal needs, individual needs, which each and every one of us has, and for which every individual is responsible for towards man and God. And then there's collective needs, general needs. I'd like to focus particularly on the individual personal needs, because I believe that even before building the society of living together, it is necessary to have individuals that feel the desire to live together, that they are moved by profound respect towards the others, and they don't want to put themselves against the others. In my view, there are some preconditions that are fundamental. And that's what I also say on Fridays when praying at the mosque. And I think it's something really important for everybody, not just the Muslims, because I'm Muslims, but it's important for anybody who is a bearer of spirituality. First of all, I think that knowing the other is the first point. First of all, it's necessary to define the other. What is the other? The other is everything that is not me. It's someone that looks like me, but may not have the same spirituality, the same creed. So the first foundation of living together is knowing the other who is not me, who's not like me, and who's not the same religion and spirituality. By means of this knowledge, we can make the first step towards living together. So we need to know the other to enrich ourselves and to mutually enrich, respecting differences. This is fundamental. We can enrich our souls through differences. In my interreligious dialogue, I often quote a verse from the Quran, which is very well known among Muslims, which reads, and well, I've just spoken it in Arabic. It's a verse of the Quran, and it refers to people who were created from a man and a woman, and then they became peoples and nations, so that individuals could get to know each other. I think these words are extremely important keywords, as the point is really getting to know each other. It's a mutual knowledge. It's not just knowing the other. It must be a two-way process. One must go deeper and not stop at the surface. I need to know who you are standing in front of me. I need to know more about you, what you believe in, what you have inside your inner parts. That's really mutual knowledge. So this verse of the Quran really holds two important messages. The first one is the one expressed by this verse, that there's just one and only one humanity. God tells us that there's only one humanity, one human group that was then diversified through populations, languages, and cultures. There can even be different colors, different religions, but the essence is knowing each other. That's what matters. It's important to establish friendship relations and to building bridges of confidence towards the others. That's what counts. Because in a humanity with no differences in culture, religion, language, and traditions, well, it will be the end of humanity. We are humans because of our differences, thanks to our differences. That's the first important message that we can draw from this verse. And the other message is for everybody who is a believer. A real believer is someone who is constantly inhabited by the presence of God. So the referential conscience of the presence of God, well, this presence is not a presence that may destabilize or disturb. Rather, it can calm down, it can provide inner peace. And this message is important for everybody. It's really important from the Quran, because it says, well, Muslim people or Christians or Jews, you'll never know what it means to be alone, because you'll always be with God, you'll always be with each other. So if you are able to live together with other people having different creeds, different spiritualities, well, through your presence with the others, you'll be able to interpret your presence with God, because everywhere you are in space and in time, God shall be with you. It will be inside you. Being together alone with God requires profound respect and humbleness. And this respect and humbleness can be learned just by mirroring the others who are different, who are not like us, and who don't have the same creed and spirituality. That's how knowledge becomes the founding element. I must speed up because I just have 20-25 minutes available. So the second element after the knowledge of the other is the respect for the other. This morning the chief rabbi expressed a really strategic concept that is respect and not tolerance. As Grand Rabbi said today during the press conference, I believe that the notion of tolerance now should be overcome because it doesn't really reflect what we are experiencing. I know very well Cardinal Tauran. I have been knowing him for many years. He came to Lyon many times, and as the president also said a minute ago, every time, well, they feel enriched by these meetings. As a Muslim, I really feel richer when I meet Cardinal Tauran, Cardinal Barbaran, who in Lyon, who is a great friend of ours. And we are really committed into interreligious dialogue for many years, and with him we have a strong dialogue, we have a strong friendship that goes beyond our religions. And with Cardinal Barbaran, I comment very often on the fact that we were really able to shift from the diffident stage to the confident stage. We don't always agree, but we are able to talk about anything because there is a profound friendship and confidence and affection really between us. And what I said about the cardinal, I can also say about the chief rabbi in Lyon. I have a lot of meetings with him and in many conferences, and we talk together many times. So I insist on this notion of respect. As I said, the relations between us are good as they go beyond the notion of tolerance. Because in fact tolerance refers to an idea of suffering. I mean, one suffers because of the presence of the other. Well, I don't accept this because, well, my presence should be a suffering? No, I don't want my presence to be a suffering. I want my presence to be enriching. I'm here and are open towards the others who's not like me, who doesn't have the same spirituality and faith, and I look for this person, and it's God who wants you to be there and who wants the other person to be there, who wants to be that Christians, Muslims and Jews are there, and I want to respect what Jesus wanted to be in the world. I insist on this respect. We have to learn to respect the feelings and the forms of loving of those who don't share our own religion. That's how we can build our future, because we live together, we share the same countries. Our responsibilities are shared. We have become a community of destiny. So I'd like to go deeper into this subject, but I rather move to another idea that I think is fundamental. And it is really subsequent, logically subsequent, so because there's a respect for the others, for what he or she believes and has inside. And the other element is this. It's really important. I want to emphasize this because it's rather complex, but that's why it's important. One has to look at the other in a positive way, trying having a positive look at the other and try to enriching through looking at the other. It means listening to the other. It means that the very difference expressed by the other can be useful to enrich me, to help me understand my faith and to understand more what I have inside. And the chief rabbi has just mentioned that, and I agree with him. It doesn't mean that one has to drown in the other. It means that one has to build together with the other. It's a mutual relationship We don't actually want to flat out differences. We don't want people to dissolve into the others, but no, the process is a process of building each other's world, respecting differences. When we meet other people, we're all like this. Let's not deny this. When people don't have our own creed or spirituality, we feel a little bit uncomfortable. That's normal. And every single thing from the other that reminds us of something that we have, well, we feel reassured. Whereas anything that shows a difference, well, is destabilizing. Well, that's normal. So my role is this, telling you that I am different from you, but I don't want to destabilize you. I'm not here to destabilize you. I'm here to reassure you. So posing a positive look at the other requires something different. Cardinal Tauran repeated this many times. Before going towards the other, one must know him or herself very well. You have to know your creed, your spirituality, and I'll try to express this in my own words. Well, one can be open towards the others only when one knows who he or she is. An intellectual process is required here. It is a profound intellectual reflection. It's a daily activity. One can be open towards the other insofar as he or she knows very well who she or he is. So when we have a positive look at the other, we are able to see the differences, to see persons who do not share the same spirituality of ours and say, well, you don't look like me, you're not similar. You don't have the same faith, you don't have the same spirituality, but I am ready to know more about you. I'm ready to listen to you. I'm ready to know more about your creed and to walk side by side with you. I'm ready to know your certainties. And listen, please, I'm ready to know more about your certainties so that I can question my own certainties. I want to know your certainties, not to become like you, but to be better as an individual in the way I am. So I am ready to question my own certainties, to live much better what I am, my faith, and what I have inside my heart. So this third element is so important. Knowing the other, respecting the other, not tolerance, respecting the other is the third element. And then having a positive look at the others. These are the necessary conditions at a personal, individual level. Unfortunately, I don't have the time to develop the other big subject I wanted to address, that is the collective needs that concern us, people in charge of religion representatives. I'll just mention them briefly. There's institutional needs, collective needs. I'll just mention them briefly, though I can't really go into detail. The first one is on institutional level, and it's respect for human dignity. Anybody who are involved in processes for living together and respecting diversity should first and foremost respect human dignity. Even before being Jews, Muslims and Christians, first and foremost we are human beings to whom God has given dignity, and we have to respect this dignity everywhere we are in space and in time. And there's a verse from the Quran on this, and you'll probably have something similar in the text from the other religions. Those who suppress a life suppress humanity, and those who save a life save humanity. The second need is equality. Well, there is one God, one single God, and he wanted equality for human beings. We are all equal. There's no differences between us. That's why we are all equal, because of our hearts, because the quality of our heart, because the quality of a person is not measured against their philosophy, their what they possess, their assets, their power, or how much money they have. Rather, this is measured against the quality and the scope of their heart. I'll mention this verse in Arabic, And this says that the most pious is the most noble among us, not because they have more assets, more money. It's the person who puts God in their own heart and life in their own hands, and not the other way around, which unfortunately is the case today. And the third need is the respect for freedom of conscience. We are equal before God and we are free to make our choices. Each and every one of us must be respected for what they are, for what they bear, and for the spirituality that they have in their inner part. Unfortunately, I don't have the time to address in detail the fourth need, that is the respect of the freedom of worship. So anybody, regardless of their religion, each of us must be free of experiencing their faith and spirituality as they want, in time, in space, but of course still abiding by the laws and the rules of the country where they live. That's my last point, and I just have a word of conclusion, which is very important in my opinion. I think that the concept of diversity is fundamental, because when this concept is well understood, well, this brings us something precious, because we can add and we don't subtract. When diversity is misunderstood, then this translates into denial, refusal of the other, and we withdraw into isolation. Unfortunately, that's what happens today many times. There are many problems, it's undeniable. However, the explanations behind these problems are global, and the response must be global. So to conclude, it is not possible to think of just individuals without the others, and even less so against the others. We must think together one with each other. Also, to go against those who preach hatred and who manipulate our conscience because they stir violence instead of stirring love. Thank you.
Siete molto bravi. Grazie anche al professor Gaci.
Thank you to Professor Gaci. I now leave the floor to Cardinal Tauran.
Il 25 agosto.
On the 25th of August of 1900 in Weimar, in Germany, in solitude and folly, Friedrich Nietzsche died. Some years before, he had written an autobiography with a sacrilegious title, Ecce Homo. He had asked the question, where is God? The answer was, I want to tell you, we were the ones who killed God, you and I. Yes, his assassins are all of us. God is dead. God is dead. This was the birth of the current of thought, which for more than 100 years was known as the death of God. Scientism then stated that only science is able to reveal to man all the truth. Only science is the foundation of wisdom. There can be a moral without God. Certainly, looking at the world today, we cannot but be surprised in noting that the sacred aspect is returning. A certain degree of religiosity. We are now looking for a wisdom, not so much of a religion. We share experiences without being worried about the dogmas. We are in the age of the believing without belonging. After the end of the cultural unanimity, after the development of pluralism, the quarantine state for religion in the private sphere and the watering down of the values and the models, well, religion has become, over a few years, a fundamental factor of the political, economic, and cultural life. But this new religiosity, which is often marked by syncretism and pantheism, is actually the need for transcendence in which our fundamental questions could find a solution. What is the sense of life, of history? Why should we suffer? Why do we have to die? What can we know about the origins and the end of the world? What can we know? So this is stated by the famous decree of the Vatican Council number 2, when we read men await from the various religions an answer to the enigmas of the human condition, which upset the heart of man, the nature of man, the sense of our lives, the good and evil, sin, the aim, the objective of pain, of suffering, death, the sanction after death, judgment, and then finally, the final mystery, revolving around our existence. So what is our origin and what is our destination? The text continues by stating that in the ancient times, in the various peoples, there was a sensitivity towards the arc and force power in the events of the human life. This new religiosity has transformed the religious landscape, we may say, the religious landscape of the Western world. The religion is being experienced according to an individualistic way. This depends on 4 factors. First of all, the proliferation of sects, then the emergence of new communities stemming from the charismatic Catholic movements, then the success of religions coming from Asia, and I'm thinking about Buddhism, and the presence of Muslims in Europe. Yet the paradox is that religions are often seen as a danger. Fundamentalism, fanatism, sectarian temptations are often associated with religion. And this happens because of terrorist attacks inspired by religious reasons, crimes perpetrated by a minority of deviated people. It is not, of course, the real Islam, which is practiced by the vast majority of that religion, of the followers of that religion. No circumstance, as Pope Benedict XVI said, no circumstance is valid to justify such criminal activity that covers in infamy those who perpetrate it, and that it is the more deprecable when religion is used as a shield, so debasing the pure truth of God to the level of one's own blindness and moral perversion. We know, indeed, that religions can give rise to the best and the worst. They can be at the service of a project for sanctity or alienation. They can preach peace or war. It would be more exact to say that religions are not violent. We are talking about violent followers. Hence the need for the religious authorities to teach the content of their religions by combining faith and reason. We do not have proper religious conflicts today. It is necessary to make a difference, probably, between what belongs to politics and what belongs to religion. So, in the conflicts that we define as based on identity, religions are particularly present. In this case, religion becomes a tool used by the politicians to build a state, to build a nation. For instance, the ideology of the Great Serbia, which led to exclusive attitudes based on identity, fed, fueled by religious inspiration. In other cases, the religious aspects plays a role in determining internal frontiers. Let's think about the African states after the colonialism ended. For instance, Nigeria, where the frontier, where the barrier is the same as a watershed, having a religious nature. In other words, we may think that we're not discussing about religion. Confessional wars are no longer present. These are no longer wars for religion or to force people to change their own religious beliefs. Religion is used to define the group and to manifest its values. So facing this situation, there are stances we should avoid. We should never use religion as a factor to legitimate violence. We cannot kill on behalf of, in the name of God, as Pope Francis repeats. We should never transform religion as a factor for mobilization. When religion ends being confused with a group or takes on a political function, it becomes ethnical and it loses its universality-based function. We pass from ethos to ethnos. Thirdly, religion cannot be a lever for power. It cannot be replaced. It cannot replace the governments in fulfilling the primary needs of population. Considering what I've said, I would dare say that we certainly need a dialogue between the religious and political authorities for the common good. A religion is practiced within a community, as we all know. Considering the longevity of their traditions and their numbers, the visibility offered by their rites and the institutions, the believers are visible and they may be easily found. The civil authorities are induced to collaborate with the religious representatives without juxtaposing themselves. The lay state does not recognize any confession, thereby recognizing them all. When the decision makers manage to create relationship with the religious authorities, they can draw from the spiritual heritage of those peoples, thereby contributing to the meeting of culture and consolidating the common good. We all know that all the religions defend the dignity of the person and the life of the person. They are aware of the dignity of the family. They know how to combine different people. They promote brotherhood, fraternity, and mutual help. We need to recognize that the most important religions already play an important role in social mediation. There is already a possible cooperation, which is also needed. The life in a society is for everybody's interest. So we've heard the contributions by the other representatives, and they all agree with me in saying that no culture, no political thought can prevent us from promoting the respect of people created by the only God, the liberty to try and understand the mystery of the human condition, and in particular the freedom of thought, of conscience, of religion, the critical sense which enables us to choose between life and death, true and false, and the acceptance of religion, which helps us consider ourselves different and at the same time the same, and respecting the other people's symbols and practices. I don't think it is impossible for all the peoples to abide by these aspects, by these to respect these ideas. We are all convinced that every person has an inalienable dignity coming from God, and we, all the peoples of the earth, form the human family, and we have a universal common good. So we are called upon to share the richness of our cultures and to practice our religions respecting our own specific elements. Hence, the specific nature of the interreligious dialogue, which should also aim at developing a culture given the possibility for everybody to live in safety. The believers belong to this world. They feel solidarity with the story of the world. They are full citizens. They are citizens and believers. They offer everybody a supplement of soul, which is needed by every society. Pope Francis stated the majority of people living in our planet profess to be believers. This should spur religions to dialogue among themselves for the sake of protecting nature, defending the poor, and building networks of respect and fraternity. Dearest friends, you've understood it. It is not possible to live and reflect on the future of our societies without taking into account the religious aspect of human nature. Facing the cultural crisis we are experiencing, the religious dimension of the human nature is compulsory. We, as Jewish Muslims or Christians, should find our own religious roots, and we should not be afraid of transmitting these values and these roots to our young people. Otherwise, we will have heirs without heritage, and we will have builders with no models. So to look towards the future, we need to remember that our Europe is not a sphere, it is a polyhedron, and we should learn to focus on pluralism in relations. We as believers want to be at the forefront in this noble cause. We are part of this world, a world which is loved by God, and to this world we need to offer the possibility to meet God. We as believers want to be recognized for what we are. We are citizens of this world. We are not asylum seekers. Now more than in the past, in our pluralistic societies, religions and their followers need to be in solidarity with everybody, but they also have to be aware of the fact that they should grasp a threefold challenge: the duty of identity, then the courage of being something else, and sincerity of intentions. And then we can discover that the future is nothing else but the present in another order, in order to accomplish the project of God, namely that every human being can achieve happiness. I would like to thank you all as members of Communion and Liberation, because you invite me every year in Rimini to share the joy of knowing who we are and where we're going to. Thanks to you, I would like to thank you because you open up the door to tell the passers-by, come here and look, God has not dead. Thank you very much.
Grazie, Eminenza.
Thank you, Eminence. I don't want to add anything to this presentation, and particularly I don't want to add anything on what he said in the last part of the presentation. God is not dead, come and see it. Well, you're all welcome to the other events in the meeting, and particularly the show of this evening, All'impronta. Thank you.